Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
Welcome to episode 76 of the Politics for Patriots podcast. Sorry for the wait on this episode. 2 Saturdays in a row were spoken for, but I am back now. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. And never forget that whenever you subscribe to a conservative podcast, a liberal somewhere sheds a tear.
That's right. That's right.
Uh-oh. Get ready for this. I'm about to break some very bad news. Get ready to be shook.
This is Armageddon.
A new poll shows Joe Biden beating Donald Trump by 11 points in Pennsylvania.
We're all gonna die!
Oh, it's terrible. It's so terrible. I'll tell you, I haven't seen Trump polling this badly in Pennsylvania since he was down 11 points to Hillary Clinton in early November of 2016. Literally, a week before the 2016 election, a poll showed Trump down by 11 points in Pennsylvania. Somehow, I don't think I should spend too much time or invest too much faith in a poll of Pennsylvania taken over a year and a half before the general election. I know a little bit about polls. I would say more than most. And the truth of the matter is that polls are mostly pretty good if you look at the average of the polls. But what's really dishonest is the way that the media uses one poll, one cherry-picked poll. I pointed this out before the 2016 election, by the way, back when all the MSM pundits and the big data folks had out their blue crayons drawing big Hillary Clinton blowout maps, talking about how Hillary, is she going to win 400 electoral votes, or is she only going to win 350? Those were like the headlines at the time. And I was saying, look, the polls are not a scoreboard. You don't know what the electorate will look like. They haven't even moved to a likely voter model yet. Trump will probably get a pretty big bump when they do. Joe Biden hasn't had to be in the spotlight yet. Everyone loves you when you're not doing anything because you're not pissing anyone off. Joe Biden hasn't even... I mean, what has Joe Biden done? What has he had, like a couple of rallies? I mean, he hasn't even introduced one policy idea yet. All right, the biggest thing he has going for him is that he's the only person in the jam-packed Democratic primary that hasn't decided to jump off the left-wing cliff. I mean, right now there's 24 people? 23 of them are like, hey, let's shred the Constitution. And Biden is like, nah, I'm pretty okay with the Constitution. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. It's like, hey, what's your favorite kind of candy here? I have 23 pieces of broccoli and a Werther's Original. Well, I guess Werther's Original. That's not good. Nobody wants the butterscotch, the Werther's Original from the bottom of Grandma's purse. But if there's no other candy available, all right, I'll take it. But I'll tell you what the most important thing is that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, polls are going to show Biden or whoever beating Trump in the general election. The most important thing that hasn't happened yet, that will definitely happen between now and the general election, is that the Democratic Party hasn't gone into civil war mode yet. Right? 24 candidates doesn't exactly scream, look how unified we are. Right now, Democrats are the Avengers. But in a couple of months, they're going to be Captain America Civil War, where Tony Stark and Captain America are beating the hell out of each other at the end. And everyone is crying, saying, oh no, what happened to the Avengers? They had a disagreement. And they had a big fight, and half of the Avengers were on Captain America's team, and half of the Avengers were on Tony Stark's team. That is the Democratic Party a couple months from now, I promise you. I mean, have you ever met a progressive? Have you ever met a left-winger? Do you think that progressives aren't going to take their ball and go home if they don't get 100% of what they want? I mean, this is the people who are saying, oh, Trump is an illegitimate president. We want to change the Constitution. We want more people on the Supreme Court, and we want no electoral college, and we want 16-year-olds to vote. Okay, the progressives have a meltdown when they do not get 100% of their way on something. If they don't get 100% of their way, then you are racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, science-denying, kicks puppies, warmonger, threat to democracy, into the world. Right now, the MSM pundits are like, whoever wins the Democratic primary, we're just going to have to all make sure we get behind them. Because they think it's Biden. And then all the other pundits on the panel and the anchors and everybody else, because it's CNN or whatever, they all go, oh! Yep. See, they spend most of their time pandering to the far left. And the whole reason for all the pandering is because if they don't get their way, they explode. They don't spend very much time going to war with the far left. But I can tell you, when you do, they are going to get their way, or they are going to take their ball and go home. They don't go to the polls and suck it up when they're upset. They go outside and scream at the sky. So I'm talking about this Pennsylvania poll that shows Biden beating Trump by 11 in the general election. Someone on Twitter saw this poll because I posted it, and they said it was fixed. It's actually not that polls are fixed. The polls are not fixed. It's that they're just polls. They don't mean that much. It's the media that latches onto them and echoes them into mattering. It's the big data Nate Silvers out there who act like they can do a math problem and know exactly what's going to happen in the election.
It's a triumph of number crunching over the human spirit.
And you know what? Sometimes Nate Silver gets it right, and sometimes he gets it wrong. And you know what? If I pulled out my Magic 8-Ball and I asked it who was going to win and I shook it up, sometimes my Magic 8-Ball would get it right, and sometimes my Magic 8-Ball would get it wrong. So it's not that the polls are fixed. It's that they're just polls. They don't actually matter, especially by themselves. All right, number one, they have a margin of error. You never hear the media saying, oh, the range of this poll. They never say that because they want you to think that the poll is exactly right. They don't even care about the margin of error, but the margin of error, the poll really is a range. And usually that range is pretty big and makes a difference. Yeah, if somebody's up by 1 in a poll, that's just tied. Because the range could be one person is winning or the other person is winning. All right, another thing about this specific poll is that they're not using a likely voter model yet. They're going to switch to one later. Right now, that is all registered voters. Nobody knows what the electorate will look like, but I can tell you 100% for sure what the electorate won't look like. 100% of registered voters. All right, this particular poll has a pretty small sample size. That usually happens when you're looking at the state polls. And it's just one poll, so there's a 5% chance that it could be totally in left field and the numbers in it mean nothing. Let's see, Biden hasn't had to get his hands dirty yet. That's a pretty big deal. He's not even the nominee yet. And there's a decent chance he won't be the nominee. When he tries to reach out to a lot of his progressive critics, you know what they're going to say to him?
Did you just smell my hair?
All right, the party has not yet been torn apart by a divisive primary. I assure you that is going to happen. There's 24 candidates in the primary. All right, not very many people are paying attention yet. Biden hasn't even expressed a policy idea yet. The general election is a year and a half away. If I open my front door and I say, okay, if my dog runs out, Biden is going to win. If my dog stays inside, then Trump is going to win. That is about as meaningful as this poll. And the reason I'm telling you all this is just because, you know, it's going to be this way right up until the election. It's starting now. It's going to be, oh, look at this poll. Trump's going to lose. I worry about people's mental health. I wish when election time comes around, I worry that people are going to give themselves ulcers or worry themselves into bad health. Don't do it. Don't believe any of this minute-to-minute nonsense. There's going to be an election, and Trump's either going to win or he's going to lose, but it's going to be because of the voters and not because of any poll. All right, so yes, Biden has a big lead right now. It's partially a bump that he got for announcing his candidacy, and also partially the result of the other top-tier candidate saying that he thinks terrorists should be able to vote from prison. I mean, what'd you think was going to happen, Bernie? I don't know. It was starting to seem like there was nothing you could say that was too crazy. But I guess actual terrorists voting from prison is where Democrats draw the line on craziness, or at least some of them. I mean, not the far left. They don't draw the line anywhere. They're a bunch of and literally nothing is too crazy for them. But we have this wonderful two-party system, so they have to share that party with actual pretty normal people who think it's better if actual terrorists don't vote from prison. Probably best for Bernie if from now on he just sticks to his economic ideas.
I own one pair of underwear. That's it. Some of these billionaires, they got 3-4 pairs.
All right, so I'll go ahead and tell you I have a bet with Matt and Scott from the Politicked podcast, and they insist that it's all over and Joe Biden has won this race. If Biden wins the nomination, they win the bet. But if anyone else wins, I win the bet. It's Biden versus the field. So yes, I will stipulate that Biden has a big lead right now. And it's partially a bump that he got for announcing his candidacy, and it's partially the result of Bernie saying that terrorists should be able to vote for prison. And it's also partially the MSM and the Democratic Party and all the elites and all the establishment propping him up. But sadly, Biden's bump is already starting to dissipate. He's fallen almost 2.5 points in the Real Clear Politics average of the polls since May 10th. That's 1 week. Biden is not going to win this primary. You have to consider the zeitgeist, the feeling of American politics right now today. And this is not a Republican or Democrat thing. This is not a progressive or conservative thing. People are not yearning for the candidate with the longest career in politics. Biden was elected to the Newcastle Council in 1970, and he's been in politics ever since. That means 2020 will be his 50th year in politics. That is the total opposite of what America wants. Like, that's total opposite of the zeitgeist. But it's what the mainstream media and the establishment want. So they will prop up Biden for a while. But hello, it's May of 2019. It's going to be like 8 months before a single vote is cast. There hasn't even been a debate yet. All right, here's what past elections would have looked like if the polls 8 months out had decided the nominees. You ready?
I'm here to help you with your history report.
All right, if polls this far out, if the leaders became the nominee automatically, here's what the elections would have looked like. In 2016, it would have been Hillary Clinton versus Jeb Bush.
Just a bit outside.
In 2012, it still would have been Romney-Obama, but I'll tell you, Rick Perry had a 26-point surge in the polls. He had a 12 to 13-point lead on Romney in September of 2011, but what happened? Do you remember? There was a debate, and Rick Perry couldn't remember which departments of government he wanted to cut.
It's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see.
EPA?
EPA, there you go. No, okay.
Let's talk deposition.
Seriously? Is EPA the one you were talking about? Or?
No, sir.
You can't name the third one?
The third agency of government,
Yeah.
I would do away with the education, the commerce, and let's see. I can't. The third one I can't. Sorry. Oops.
Oh, he couldn't remember that pesky Department of Energy. That was the one he was going to cut. It would be easy to remember now because he's the secretary of the Department of Energy. So that was bad. Rick Perry just plummeted, dropped from 32 back to 5. But that was because of a disastrous debate moment. And I'm sure nobody out there can imagine Joe Biden having any sort of disastrous moment at a debate. So in that same primary, Herman Cain, Newt Gingrich, and Rick Santorum all passed Romney in the polls at some point. Santorum shot up big time by overperforming in Iowa. When that happened, lots of folks who didn't like Romney jumped from Gingrich to Santorum. Romney pulled it out in the end, but it wasn't because he had a big lead in May of 2011. It was because he kept being able to fend off the attacks. Yeah, I wonder if Joe Biden has the skills to do that with 23 people coming after him in the age where social media is a kingmaker. All right, 2008 general election. You remember it well. It was, of course, Rudy Giuliani versus Hillary Clinton.
Just a bit outside.
They both had big leads. Rudy was up by 14 points on John McCain, and Hillary had a big double-digit lead over Barack Obama because who is Barack Obama? Nobody even knows his name yet, right? Obama started out polling at about 22% and finished up at about 52%. So here's what's going to happen in the 2020 Democratic primary. The mainstream media for now is going to prop up Biden, believing that he's the great hope to beat President Trump, who they despise. Meanwhile, the left of the party is going to attack Biden. You've already seen Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez going after him. You already saw Lucy Flores do the mainstream media car wash to accuse him of inappropriate touching.
Did you just smell my hair?
Meanwhile, Vox, Slate, all these left-wing media sources are going to trash Biden while the mainstream media is protecting him. This is the Civil War part, right? Vox has a piece. Joe Biden is the Hillary Clinton of 2020. And the piece is about as dead-on accurate as you will ever see a Vox piece be. All right, I'm going to read an excerpt. To a certain kind of Democratic Party establishmentarian, Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 because she was not likable enough. A sentiment that may or may not be thinly veiled code for saying that she's a woman. Oh, God. I hate reading stuff in Vox. They're such idiots. All right. Their solution in 2020 is good old Joe Biden. All right. So it's a Vox piece. So it has this kind of stuff in it. But you got to read around that. Right. The point is that you have to pluck the heart of the mystery of what's going on in the Democratic Party out of this piece. That's the important part. So ignore stupid stuff like that. All right. The important thing is this Vox piece does understand the real reason that Hillary lost. So here's what it says. What brought Clinton down was public exposure not to her personality, which was sparkling enough to make her the most admired woman in America for 17 years straight before losing the claim to Michelle Obama in 2018. All right, writer got a little sidetracked, but here it comes. But extended public scrutiny of every detail of a decades-long career in public life. This, in turn, is the exact same problem Biden will inevitably face as a presidential candidate. Americans like outsiders and fresh faces, not veteran insiders who bear the scars of every political controversy of the past 2 generations. That is a true story. Boom. Vox is exactly right. I mean, they called Hillary's personality sparkling, which is a little bit...
Good one.
But we're not on Vox.com for that. We're on Vox.com to decide what's happening in the Democratic Party. And this piece goes on to totally nail everything that's wrong with Joe Biden. It's actually a really good piece. All right, and this is going on all over the left-wing media. Slate has a piece called Joe Biden Wants Women to Vote for Him, subheading, but he doesn't want to earn their votes. All right, Slate has another piece, How to Beat Biden, What We've Learned from the Frontrunner's First Few Weeks on the Trail. And it says, before Biden's entry, the primary was littered with left-wing policy litmus tests, with candidates tripping over themselves trying to pass. Biden, both pundits and fellow competitors felt, could never pass these tests and would quickly collapse as he proved himself to be out of touch with the modern-day iteration of the Democratic Party. Harris's recalibration of her campaign is one that I bet we'll be seeing from other competitive but currently middling candidates going forward. But Biden has surged in spite of the fairly loud press airing of his lamentable policy positions and the statements he's made over his nearly 50 years in public service. And it's not just name recognition. The Democratic electorate as a whole, for better or worse, seems to imbue a candidate's perceived capacity to defeat Trump with more weight than, say, which healthcare bill she plans to watch die in the Senate. I don't know why it says she. It's talking about Joe Biden. That's... what the hell? I don't even know. I don't even know how to read Slate. I'm sorry. All right, and so there's a new piece today from the Intelligencer. Does Biden get that healthcare is a big effing deal? I ran this poll on Twitter. Who will win, Biden or someone else? I got a lot of votes, and it came out 50-50. All right, here's the way I'm looking at it. If you have faith that Biden can do the things he needs to do in order to stay on top for the next 7 months and beyond, then you should bet that Biden is going to win. If you think Biden is going to flub his way down to the bottom when the progressives go after him, and that he's going to have no idea how to respond, and that he's going to respond wrongly in every situation, then you should put your money on someone else. Personally, I think Biden is a flubber. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Remember, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the show on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. That's it for today. I'm out of here.
It's a triumph of number crunching over the human spirit. You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com. And please subscribe.